He was sickly last week, but he is sickly no more. My good buddy, the king himself. No, it's not LeBron. It's Adam King. So what a letdown for the viewers.
Yeah. Hi, viewers.
uh,
Thanks for
yeah.
coming.
Hi. It's great.
Yeah.
I know I'm good at this intro thing. Welcome to Old Man Squad, everybody. I'm Dan Vespers. He is Adam King, and we are talking whether or not your team, this is nonsensical way to introduce it, is a safe team to draft from this coming season, because tanking sucked this year. But it was different though. Like, it was a bigger middle of teams because of, and that's been the case for a couple of years because of the play-in tournament, but the bottom crop tanked in all kinds of new, magical, and truly horrific ways. And as much as for many years I was like, I don't think we really need to pay that close attention to it. Now we really do. So this was your idea, Kingy. We were talking on Slack, and you were like, why don't we just do a show where we like talk about teams and say whether or not we think we're going to trust them next year? So boom, we haven't done a show in a couple of weeks. You were feeling under the weather. So we're just going to blow smoke up people's you-know-whats for 30 minutes today and talk about some of the teams that are sitting on the bubble, probably going into next year, and whether or not we draft players from them. Sound good? It's your idea. I hope it does. Uh-oh, did I lose you? I lost him right at the front end of the show. Oh, what a bummer.
Yeah, I think, well, we don't need a plan, do we? We know each other well enough. We have no run sheet. We literally decided on doing this show an hour ago. So
yeah. But you did suggest it like a day and a half ago. Yesterday was just a mess. We had open house night at Asher's elementary school, and my mom, who normally helps babysit on Thursdays, is out of town. I did literally nothing yesterday other than like catch up and then run after children. So I don't know where to begin. I would like to say that there's some sort of rhyme or reason to the order of what we're going to do here, but let's just go through some teams and figure out what we want to do with it. I'm going to start with the team that irritated me the most this year, and that's the Utah Jazz. What do we think? And it's hard to know until free agency, but they have a young core, but they also have a veteran core. They have these two chunks of players on that team, and the veteran guys are starting to inch towards expiring deal realm. I think John Collins is an expiring deal this coming season. I can't remember if Colin Sexton, I think he might have 2 years left, although I could be getting that wrong. But they have some now more easily trade. I think Jordan Clarkson isn't expiring this coming season. So it feels like they should probably be tanking for one more year, but it's hard to know. And if they are tanking and these veterans are still there for the first half of the year, what on earth do we do with this team? Are they a like fully radioactive? Because I'm close to putting them in that category.
Yeah, you probably started with maybe the hardest team to
well, screw it, knock them out of the way first.
Is it possible to tank harder? I don't know if it is. I mean, they were resting Walker Kessler, who's 20. What is he? 22, 23. They were managing his time and his minutes, and this guy should be playing every game. And they're a really hard team to get a read on. Like you said, a couple of older pieces. John Collins is seemingly always on the trade block, no matter where he is. Colin Sexton, I think, would give anything to be anywhere else other than Utah, because he would like to win. He would like to play on a team that is motivated to win basketball games. But I'm not going to trust him unless we get some sort of direction during the offseason. But again, they didn't get the draft pick that they wanted, so they're not getting Cooper Flagg. I don't really think they're getting a draft pick who is going to change their fortunes. So they are probably one of the teams that, like Lauri Markkanen, I don't know if I ever draft him again in my life, because he's just been so untrustworthy. I mean,
and this is the worst year out of like three. Yeah. It was like fairly untrustworthy, pretty damn untrustworthy, and then this year, which was like, oh, he was bad and he didn't play. This was, I hope this was bottoming out for Markkanen, but good Lord, like this was, even the guys you thought would play didn't even really like Walker Kessler only played 58 ball games. He was too good to play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the worry here. Like Walker Kessler per game, he was really good. I think he got back on track after a pretty poor season the year before. Production-wise, he was really good, but you can't draft someone that's potentially only going to play 3/4 of the game and 3/4 of the games, and that's without an injury. He wasn't injured. He was just, as you said, too good. They just didn't want to play him.
It was too damn good. Guys, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all sports betting action. The NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, baseball, all of that rolling. And BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, scores, and live in-game betting, which is what you might have to take advantage of because this show is probably dropping as the Pacers-Knicks game is already underway. That game, the Knicks were favored by 6 at the opening line, but it doesn't matter if you're getting down in the middle of the action. Can the Knicks bounce back after a cataclysmic meltdown in game 1? I don't know the answer to that, but if you feel like you do, you can wait until partway through the game and you can get down on it. So that should be fun. But guess what? Even if you don't want to wait for the ball game, even if you don't want to do that live in-game stuff, there's a BetOnline casino. Head on down to it. Check out the Vegas-style games like poker, blackjack. They've got like 15 different types of blackjack. I think I only know 2 of them, but hey, you could learn the other 13. They got slot games, live casino, all yours at BetOnline. The game starts here. All right, well, we talked Utah because they were supremely annoying. Let me jump to a team that didn't tank this year, but has rumors swirling. I'm trying to stay in the Western Conference, and that's the Phoenix Suns. Adam, do you think they're going to blow it up? Is it worth us spending any time on them today until we know more? Like, how do you think through them? That's a question that I guess dynasty players have to think about right now. Redraft players, we don't have to worry until, after free agency or after we see what's happening with KD. But what do you think Phoenix is headed over the next couple of months?
They're a tough one. As I puff out my chest to reveal a Pacers shirt.
Just because I know who you're rooting for.
Yeah, we do. Suns are a tough one. Kevin Durant, there's there's constant trade rumors. We don't know where he's going to end up. What are they going to... Devin Booker, look, I think Devin Booker is probably the one player we can trust. He seems to play most games. He has injury issues, hamstring things, but in terms of just his overall value, I think he is pretty safe. Beyond Devin Booker, I don't really trust anyone at this point. And honestly, their roster is just not that good. So
yeah, that's the issue.
That is. Nick Richards is their starting center, and he had his moments, but he's not the guy they need in there if they want to win. Will Durant be there? Bradley Beal seems to just be sort of getting worse every season. Injuries, production. Does he want to be there? Probably not. They get a new coach every 6 months. They're really one of those teams at the moment that I think we have to wait and see. Because changes are coming, I think.
Yeah, I'm inclined to assume that whoever's there, I would lean towards trusting. I can't imagine that Devin Booker wants to be part of a full teardown, which I realize is a weird thing to say if a team might trade Kevin Durant, but they're going to go try to get a whole bunch of stuff for him. And my guess is they probably try to utilize that stuff to pull in a different player. Like, I don't think they want to go into the massive tank mode, not with the relatively new ownership that already basically just, mortgaged everything to build this god-awful zombie creature that they ran out this last season. So, Booker, like you said, I think I would trust him if we have an idea of who's going to start for them next year, whoever that might be. I think I would probably trust those guys as well. I don't think the Suns turn into a tank team, even if they do lose Kevin Durant. Staying in the Western Conference, the only other team that you could say legitimately hard tanked this year, and it was only really at the very, very end, was the Pelicans. And you could put a lot of that on injury stuff and just sort of like a blend of mismatched pieces. I would assume that's a team that is going to try to compete next year. How do you feel about the Pels?
I think so. I had no real issues drafting any of their guys. I mean, Zion comes with his usual caveats of injuries and missed games and things like that, but that's nothing to do with the trajectory of the team. I don't think so. No, look, I think, just pulling up their roster here, Trey Murphy,
Was awesome.
really good. Has to start now. Ingram's gone, so that sort of logjam is done anyway. So Trey Murphy, absolutely trust him. DeJounte is a little bit of a question mark only because we still haven't really seen how he fits with CJ McCollum, with Zion. I think I still trust him, but I just don't think my belief in him is as high as it was 12 months ago, 2 years ago.
Right, and he probably misses first month, 2 months-ish of the season. Hard to know exactly.
Yeah, I think so. CJ is CJ, but he's getting older. He's getting slower. Doesn't do as much. The center spot is interesting, and they're fringe guys. So Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, where do they fit? I mean, we assumed they would come in and not really play, but they played and they were sort of okay. So where do they fit? Where does Yves Messi fit? Is he their center that they want to run with? So there are question marks regarding roles and minutes and that sort of thing. But generally speaking, I think if we're looking at the team as a whole, they will want to turn things around after what was a pretty disgusting season, which, as you said, a lot of that came down to injuries.
All right, now over to the Eastern Conference. This is where things were a little more clear in their delineations. We had some hard tanking teams like the Wizards, the Hornets. We had a team that was briefly too good and then subtle tanked in Brooklyn. We had a team that half tanked the entire year in Toronto. And then we had a team that lost all of their veterans and then hard tanked in the 76ers. There were 5 teams this past year. They were teams in the East that should have tanked but didn't. Looking at you, Chicago. I think we can probably leave them out of the mix just based on the Bulls' track record at this point. So let's go through kind of lightning round style those 5 teams out East, and let's start with the what I think is probably the hardest question of them, which is the Toronto Raptors, because they got all these guys that are pretty damn good. They had them this year, but Emmanuel quickly never got healthy, seemingly this entire season. Scotty Barnes was on and off the injured list for the first half of the year. Jakob Poeltl came out before the season started and had some quote that was like, we know we're not trying to win every ball game this year. Oops, kind of a thing. Is this a team that can really half tank again, even though they shelled out for Brandon Ingram? And like, if you look at their starting 5, it feels like it could compete with most teams in the NBA. I lean towards an expectation that Toronto's going to try to be better this coming year, but I think they're kind of a hard question to ask after they took what should have been a decent team this year and said, yeah, we're going to half tank this season.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they'll probably try, at least to start the season, I think they'll try and actually see what they've got. What does this core look like? With Brandon Ingram, we didn't see him at all with his ankle replacement, whatever surgery, whatever, new ankle, new leg. We don't know.
Big toe, we don't know.
We don't know. So he will seemingly, he'll be there. RJ Barrett, I thought, had a good year. Quickly, injuries. I thought he looked pretty good when he was out there. Probably, on the whole, a bit underwhelming, but a lot of that was I just don't think he was able to build any momentum. So he'll be there. Scotty Barnes was pretty good. Jakob Poeltl, I thought he had a really good year.
Yeah.
And I think people actually don't realize he's not 30 yet, Jakob Poeltl. So he sort of, I think a lot of people just think, oh, he's early 30s, mid 30s. He's only got another couple of years. Why would they want him as part of their direction, whatever that is? But he's still only 29. So theoretically still in his sort of prime. So I think the Raptors probably give this a red hot go to start with. and then maybe reevaluate once we hit January and see, okay, where are we sitting? Are we 7th in the East? Okay, let's keep going with this. And if they're sitting 12th, they probably go, okay, we can probably start to take our foot off the gas a little bit.
Who's your favorite player in that bunch if you're thinking through like public perception versus what you might actually get? I think for me it's Pirtle.
Yeah, probably. He's
unless there's a big pendulum swing on Scotty Barnes is the caveat there.
Yeah. No, I think I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see with a few of these players. So where does Quickly go in drafts? Because he was sort of pushed up inside the top 50 last season and people were pretty high on him, and then he just didn't play, suffered multiple injuries. So have people soured on him now? Will he fall down draft boards? And the same goes for Brandon Ingram. Where do people view him now? He's just been injured for the last 3 years, it feels like.
Yeah, he's impervious to negative draft movement, despite the fact that he never plays. I don't understand why people keep going with Brandon Ingram. I don't. No. I want nothing to do with that dude.
Yeah, I don't think I will, unless if I can get him, if he falls to sort of the 80th pick, I probably would, but he'll probably go top 50 again. It probably is Pirtle, because despite the production and the strong year that he is one of those players that everyone just seems to overlook or sleep on him. And if you haven't had him on your roster, you probably don't realize how good he was last year. But so he is someone I think that you probably could get at value.
All right. The Raptors are the hardest one in the East. Let's go to some of the other ones. 76ers, to me, that's an easy one. Like, if Joel Embiid and Paul George are playing on opening night, that's not a tanking team. Yes?
Yeah, no, they're not. Obviously, Embiid is the bigger question there. Will he play? How many games will he play? I have zero faith. So I'm not drafting Joel Embiid.
What if he fell? Okay. Well, Roto, it's different than head-to-head. Head-to-head, what if he fell into the 30s?
No.
Still no. Okay, that's interesting. I might take him late third.
Yeah, no.
Which is dumb, because I just did like 4 shows talking about how you should never take a risk in the first 3 rounds. Late 30s is 37 and on. I want to be very clear. That's the 4th round. How about the 4th round? Would you take him in the 4th?
I'd consider him, but still probably no.
Yeah, that's a rough.
I don't need to deal with that.
No, you don't have to.
No.
You don't. You really don't. Your team would be okay if your 4th round pick was a goose egg, in a way that your team would not be okay if your 2nd round pick was a goose egg. Okay, let's go to the last 3, which I think are like semi-clear, but not exactly. Brooklyn went 26 and 56 this year, but they really like wedged a marshmallow through a keyhole to get to that record, because they won games. They won a bunch of them at the beginning of the year. They were like a 500 team after a month, and upper management was like, whoa, dude, Jordi Fernandez, you're too good at this crap. You got to start playing all these guys that suck like half the game. And then 14 guys all played 24 minutes on that team. It was awful. It was terrible. It's the worst kind of tanking. We want either the stars sit entirely and we can just pick up a bunch of scrubs that are playing 40 minutes, or like the stars play every other game, because at least we know what you're going to get. Brooklyn did it the worst way possible, and Utah, the worst way possible, which was, yeah, man, you can play Cam Johnson, but we might just play him 22 minutes tonight, and you won't know until he's out at the end of the half and you don't see him again. So my assessment is Brooklyn was just starting their tank. Like, they were good. They just traded all their guys away a year and a half ago.
Yep.
They're amassing picks. They're going to want to use them, and they want to have a high pick when they use those things. So I'm probably mostly dodging Brooklyn next year, and I almost don't care what happens, with the asterisk of, do they put all of their assets into a Giannis trade package? But excluding that scenario, Brooklyn's kind of off my board. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think so. They're a funny squad. It's a I mean, who is their best player? We honestly don't know.
It's
And
probably
you
Cam
could
Johnson.
argue it probably is Cam Johnson, but we haven't seen enough of Cam Thomas in a big role yet. From a fantasy perspective, how good can he be? I actually thought Nick Claxton was okay this year. He was pretty healthy. He played. Probably the production was a little bit underwhelming, but I had him in a couple of teams, and he, as you said, the way they tanked was that they played their guys. They just didn't play them a lot. Nick Claxton only needs to play 26 minutes to give you a couple of blocks, 10 rebounds, 10 points. So those sort of big man stats. But their roster, like their second best player and their 12th best player, you could just flip flop them
Are the
night
same.
to night. It's so yes, they're going to be a team, I think, much like this year, where majority of their guys are just waiver wire targets. And hey, it looks like Tucson Ebwoma is going to play 30 minutes for a week. Let's just pick him up and then move on.
I would encourage everyone listening to or watching this show to go pull up the Brooklyn Nets roster and sort by minutes per game. And it's absolutely mind-blowingly hilarious how many players averaged somewhere between 20 and 28 minutes per game. And some of these guys were like traded on or traded off of the roster, so it's not a perfect cross-section, but like Claxton was at 27, Jalen Wilson was at 26, D'Lo, while there, was around 26. Zaire Williams was 25. Keon Johnson was 24. Tosan, who you just talked about, 24. Clowney, 23. Tyrese Martin, 22. I don't even know who Tyson Etienne is. He was at 22 minutes in 7 games this year. Trendon Watford, 21. I forgot that DeAnthony Melton logged games with. Did he even play? Yeah, he was.
No,
Was he there
didn't.
briefly? No,
He was there, but I don't think he
traded
played.
after.
I think, after the
Yeah,
injury.
traded after he got hurt. Day'Ron Sharp averaged 18 minutes a game. That was a little bit higher down the stretch.
Mhm.
Like this was beyond unacceptable. The good news is, if you like Cam Johnson, with every passing moment, his contract becomes more tradable. I think it's now down to 2 years left. Yeah, 2 years left. So, like everybody's talking about how, the Lakers wanted Cam Johnson, so-and-so wants Cam Johnson. Most of these teams don't want to pick up a guy with 3 years and over $20 million a year on that contract. 2 years, teams a little bit more likely, so you might get a guy like that moved mid-season. But man, you're playing with fire if you pick up a good player on a Brooklyn team that's just beginning the downward spiral. Next name on the... Oops, did I lose my list of teams here? Wait. Retreat, Google Chrome tab. The Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to change my question to you, Kingy. Again, talking to Adam King. Kingy, Adam King 91 on social media. How many years in a row can the Hornets tank? Like, there has to be some limit to the futility, right? In the COVID 2021 year, they were 33 and 39. And I think that was the high water mark for them since since Kemba Walker left, basically. So are we talking about 6 consecutive years they've been tanking and they're still terrible? This is one of those. I should just stop the question and let you answer it there. But I feel like this is one of those moments where it's like chasing a stock, right? Like a stock is just falling. You're like, it can't go any lower than this. And you just keep buying it. And it just keeps going lower and lower and lower until finally the company just goes bankrupt. So are we trying to be the smartest person in the room with Charlotte? Or is it easier to just take a step back and say, you know what? I want to see them win for one season before I take the plunge. Not that I want anything to do with LaMelo Ball ever, but like there are other guys on that team. Where do you sit with Charlotte?
I think when you brought Charlotte up, you sort of let out a big sigh, as did I. And I think that's the way everyone feels about Charlotte, because I think whether you like Charlotte, whether you're a fan of Charlotte or not, everyone wants them. I think we want them to win. We want them to be competitive, to be a good team, because they have good young pieces. You mentioned LaMelo Ball, who will he ever reach his potential? I don't know. Brandon Miller, has looked good. Injuries, obviously, they ended his year this year. Mark Williams, after all of the Lakers trade stuff that went down, I thought he finished the season quite well. They're going to get another good draft pick. So they're a team that I really want them to succeed and be good. But as you alluded to there, I need to see it before I trust it, I think. LaMelo will, I mean, where's he going to go in drafts? He's not going to go first round. I think we can safely say he's not going to go in the first round next season. Will he go? Will someone take a chance on him at pick 20? Possibly. Will that person be me? Possibly. I don't know. I'm a glass half full kind of person when it comes to LaMelo. So it would be someone like me who would take a chance on him there. But I think he goes probably third round in most drafts. It's hard to trust them, given, as you said, it's been 5-6 years since we've seen any sort of positive come from Charlotte. So, yeah, they're a tough one, but I would love to see them. I think they have the pieces to be a play-in back-end playoff team, but I have no idea whether that's going to happen.
I'm so mad at myself because I'm not the guy that wants LaMelo Ball, and somehow I ended up with him in 2 or 3, so 20 to 30% of my Yahoo Cash leagues after and I've been doing all these review shows where I go back and I look at the slides that I built during the preseason, and to a T, they all say, don't trust LaMelo Ball. And then I did it 3 times. I have no idea what the hell happened in the moment. It was like he fell to pick 25, the beginning of the 3rd round. I was like, well, I guess it's the 3rd round now, even though it's 1 pick away from the 2nd round. I don't want anything to do with the Hornets until they have a good year. And I'm okay with missing the 1 good year to deal with that. Someone out there is going to get a good value on one of these guys. It might be LaMelo. It might be Brandon Miller. It might be Mark Williams. He'd be the one that I'd be I'd give the longest look at, because I don't know where he's going to go in drafts, but it's not going to be as high as LaMelo. And he was ranked higher than Ball in 9 cat. Obviously it's, 9 cat has turnovers weighted pretty heavily, but Mark Williams would be the one guy I'd give kind of a long look at. But you just kind of have to be okay with missing 1 year of value with a team like Charlotte. And if you're not okay with that, then you're going to keep chasing. And if you've been doing that, you've taken L's with this team for 5 consecutive years. And eventually it's going to pay off and you're going to get a value. But I'm okay with just not dealing with it until we see them compete. And then go ahead and just take someone at value the following year. That's okay. There's other values on the board. I don't feel like I need to deal with it. And finally, Washington. That's right. Doing my best, Wilford Brimley. The Washington Wizards. They have also been bad for a couple of years, but they've been much more transparent in their suckitude than most of these other teams. They've been awful whether or not they've played their veterans. That's how you tank, man. You get veterans that just aren't that good, and then you can play them and you can still lose. Shout out Jordan Poole. Wizards have some young players. It feels like they have a core that they're beginning to trust. They're not good, but you can be terrible and still play guys an okay number of minutes. So I'm kind of okay with drafting Wizards because I think you know who's going to play, even if they're taking losses along the way. It's a weird, trustworthy tank team, if that makes any sense. Are you with me on that one?
I'm probably not as locked in on them.
You can disagree. We can disagree on.
Yeah, I know. I'm just looking at their roster.
There's some ugly.
Yeah, it's like you said. I think they do have a core that, in their mind, is this is what we're moving forward with. But is that core even good enough to ever be a playoff team? I'm still not sold on Alex Sarr. I thought Sarr was pretty good during his rookie season, but he's only 20, so I mean, I'll give him that. Keontae George, sorry, not Keontae George. Keyshawn George, I thought played well, but he's nothing more than a role player, I don't think. Like, if you run down their roster, who is someone that has a long-term starting future in the NBA? I mean, you could argue even Jordan Poole is better as a sixth man. He is going to obviously start and play big minutes for Washington, but if we remember back to when he was in Golden State, he played that role to perfection. So Bilal Coulibaly is interesting, still probably a little bit untapped in terms, especially offensively. He had some really good games this year, but then he had stretches of 2 weeks where he was just terrible on offense. The defensive stats sort of give him that floor that I think you can draft him and have confidence that he'll at least contribute in one way or another. But look, beyond that, I don't know. Probably Coulibaly, I would somewhat trust. Sarr, I suppose you could get him late in drafts as a center if you don't care necessarily about field goal percentage from your center spot. But I don't know. I look at their roster, it's probably the saddest roster. And again, they didn't get the draft pick that they wanted.
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
Yeah. So
I feel a little bad. Like, it kind of felt like the Wizards deserved to get a good pick here because they tanked.
Yeah.
To me, they tanked the right way. They played guys. They were just bad.
They're just bad. Yeah.
It was shenanigan free for the most part. They were just like, yeah, we're going to play Alex Sarr all year, but he's terrible because he's a rookie. I think Sarr shoots better than 39% next year. I don't know what the number is, but I think it'll be better than that. And like you said, Keyshawn George has a pretty translatable fantasy game, also terrible percentages. Jordan Poole was pretty good. I mean, the field goal percent was surprisingly decent for him this year. Not great, obviously, 43, but like not break your back terrible. And the turnovers were probably the buzzkill there. So if you were soft punting those, then he had an even better season. And you got 68 games out of him on a tanking team, which I think is more than you could possibly ask for. But you're right. Like, he was the only player inside the top 135 on that team in 9-cat. That's a bad fantasy list. Because all these other guys have some sort of colossal issue. Justin Champagne's intriguing if he played enough. Sarr, I think it's better. Coulibaly's percentages have a long way to go. So you're going to be taking shots with these guys. And, we're talking about, other than Jordan Poole, we're talking about guys that are probably going to get drafted in the 12th or 13th round of stuff. Maybe Sarr goes a little earlier than that. So I think that's probably why I'm more comfortable with it, because it's like, yeah, I'll take a shot on Alex Sarr in the 12th round. If his field goal percent jumps to 44 or something like that, then suddenly he is actually a fantasy startable guy. Were there any other teams, Adam, that you wanted to talk about? I think that was kind of like the big 8, right?
I think so. I mean, Portland, I suppose they're an interesting one, but they were actually fairly good this year, and I think they do have an interesting young core. So I think they'll be in a position, and we saw it this year, where they will at least try to win to start the season. We reevaluate midway through the season, but based on what we saw this year, I think they'll be trying. So we don't really have to consider them a tanking team. The Spurs will be a lot better than they were to close this year. There's moves to come, as we know. Like, where does Giannis go? How does that change the landscape? Well, if he goes somewhere, I think a team that probably one final team that we could touch on, and we have seen no indication that they want to tank, but I'm not sure how good they can be, and that's Miami. I just don't think it's in them to tank. But to me, looking at that roster now, they're just not. They're not that good. Like, they're not a playing team.
Heat culture alone can't get them to 41 wins. Nah, come on. No faith in Heat culture.
No.
Sorry, Heat fans.
No
That's
faith,
just
no faith.
Heat culture is having Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Or LeBron or Dwayne Wade, or somebody good.
That's right.
Although I do like Bam. I like Adebayo. He's at least,
I do like Bam. I just don't think he can get any better.
Yeah,
he is who he is.
Right. I don't think they're going to tank either. As long as they have enough of these we need to win type of players. I think they're stuck in that sort of like middling mediocrity, like Chicago, like Atlanta. These teams that are just like, oh yeah, that's a play-in team right there. You just take one look at their roster and like that's a play-in team. Like they're gonna trip Wiener first into 35 wins and get a mid-pack selection in the draft. And they'll probably do a good job with it because the Heat do draft like Khalil Ware. He looks good. But I don't think they're gonna throw in the towel. No. I think that's it. I think that's all we had for today. Right?
Yeah, that'll do.
I think that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll do.
Enough.
Thank you for the is that the end of Babe?
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Yeah.
It is.
Did I get that right?
You did.
Weird reference at the end of today's podcast. Kingy, I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad your leg is starting to sort of maybe heal up a little bit. Next week again, do something else. We'll come up with it again 45 minutes before game time.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
All right, fair enough. He's Adam King. I'm Dan Pespers. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Someone will see you on Monday, everybody. Have a great weekend. Like, rate, and subscribe on your way out. Later for now.